Hey there, folks. Welcome to Table at Gaming. I'm Isaac,
And I'm Brandon.
and we are going to go over the Sorcerer Kings army list for Conquest, Last Argument of Kings.
It's very exciting because it is the newest, latest, and is it the best army? Stay
Clickbait.
tuned and find out.
We're going to start off. We're going to talk about our thoughts of the army overall. And to do that, I feel like I have to introduce the ritual mechanic, their big army thing. I'm just going to paraphrase how that works, and so that'll give us a nice baseline set of knowledge to base all of our other opinions off of. And speaking of opinions, this is hot takes. We've not played with or against the Sorcerer Kings. These are knee-jerk reactions with minimal thought put into them just from reading through the PDF. So don't expect nuanced opinions here. And if we're wrong, that's fine. We're allowed to be wrong. But all right. So ritual mechanic. Every character can spend a free action to begin a ritual. So you pick one of the rituals that they have access to. You put a card on the side of the board. There can only be one of that ritual on the side of the board. But every character can throw out new rituals as long as they're all different ones. Every time after that you draw a command card, or regiment, or a character, you add a token to every ritual. And then if you spend another free character action, so again, free means that you can summon a ritual, like start a ritual, in addition to your normal character action, like duel or whatever. And you can also add 2 tokens as a free action in addition to dueling or unbreaking or whatever. And then, that adds 2 tokens. When you reach a certain number of tokens, after that activation where you've reached that token, so like it's 9 tokens, I've gone through 7 cards, I draw the character, they add another token, they add 2 tokens, finishes off the ritual. After that character's activation is completely done, you take that token, the ritual, and you put it in your stack. And it acts exactly like a command card from then on. When you draw it, you get the effects of the ritual, which are written in the army list. There's a variety of different effects. That is the baseline mechanic of the ritual, paraphrased. So might have some details incorrect, but I think I mostly got it accurate. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the ritual mechanic?
So I think it's interesting because it does things where when your character draws, you have more choices. You can choose to do your action. So you get the free action, but then you can choose to do one and then add more. I think it's interesting in that the rituals have different requirement costs. So unlike Wadrun, which is always when you hit 3, you just have to use it, extenuating circumstance included. So I think that's interesting. It does feel a lot like the Wadrun mechanic, though, in general, which is you have a set of characters that allow you to pick the rituals as opposed to what you chant, and then you have to play the sideboard game with tokens. I am concerned that it feels a little fiddly, just because I know when I play you with Wadrun, it gets a little fiddly.
Yeah.
But when they hit, the Wadrun hits, so I assume this is going to be the same case. Also, the fact that this adds a command card is interesting, because in general, I like mechanics in this game that work by either putting, removing, or allowing you to use your command stack in a different way. So I think that part is really cool.
Yep. All right, yeah. So do you have any thoughts on the army overall? Like anything that is maybe unique to the Sorcerer Kings that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so one thing that I like, and I'll show this on screen, is Sorcerer's Patronage, which is the only army-wide rule they have at the moment. It's the only time that I'm aware in Conquest that you can make a choice that changes your character's mainstay, which is a really interesting way, because if I pick fire and I have a bunch of fire elementals and fire-aligned items, and then you pick the air and have those things, our armies might be very different in construction because of this choice. So it's something that I think is really interesting. Another thing is, we're not going to cover all the supremacy abilities, but all the supremacy abilities that are out today are things that are always active. So it's not like other factions or characters where, like with Spires, where I have to say, I'm going to use my supremacy ability, and that now lets me draw 3 cards and use them in a sequence. Theirs are all ever present, which is interesting, and kind of makes you avoid making a bad decision when you use it, but you just have to remember always to be sequencing that. And I feel a lot of supremacy is going to be mainly focused on, I'm going to pick the one that is going to give me the most value over the 10 turns of the game, as opposed to the one that's going to make a big game play, right? Like Executioner clone is really good because like if you sequence a 3, draw it quickly, or at the right time, you can just totally change the tempo of the game. They don't have access to that. That is only done through the ability to do rituals.
Yeah. And then while we're on the topic of Sorcerer's Patronage, I do want to add, you may notice the last paragraph down there. You get 5 choices in your warband, but one of them must be one of the mortal infantry units, which means, basically, it means you can do less characters for more regiments, which is an interesting balance, because like a lot of the time, once you get to like around 10-ish regiments, like you have to have 3 characters. Well, literally, once you get to 9 regiments, you need a 3rd character to get that 9th regiment, because every other character has at most 4 picks in their warband. The infantry aspect of it, like the mortal infantry aspect, is kind of interesting, because like the sorcerers, the characters, can only really join the mortals without taking masteries or riding monsters or something, which basically means you get your escort unit for free and everything else is like pure juice.
Yeah, which is a very different way when you look at other armies where usually that is like the tax you pay to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. Any other big scope, like broad scope items that you want to talk about? Like,
I'm glad you said items, because the one thing I've also noticed is, and I will go through some of the ones that are most interesting, most of their patronage, which I believe is what they call their upgrades or items, are resolved on draw effect, which I have very weird feelings on, which is, it feels like something that you're either going to pay points for and you're going to have to sequence your deck in one way and not ever get utility when you need it, or it's going to be something that is going to actually impact. And I just worry it's going to be too much on the first one, just because in general with draw effects, I find you're making sacrifices for action economy to get a small buff. And while a few of the items, which I think we'll cover, are interesting enough to make that decision, I think most of them you're just going to be like, there's the right order and I'm just going to sacrifice getting this cool ability on my draw effect, which is like, it's a choice.
Yeah. All right. So then let's go to talking about units. So the first character that I want to, or the first unit that I want to talk about, is the Maharaja character. This one is the only one that really stood out to me as having a useful supremacy ability. One of the supremacy abilities is like +1 terrifying when elementals are controlling objectives or something. And it's like, okay, I hope you never play against an Old Dominion army. That's the exact same problem as like the Konungur has.
Oh yeah,
it's just. So the Maharaja is, when you use that free action to add tokens to a ritual with a character, you can add that same amount of tokens to another ritual. So it's ritual acceleration. You can just sit there. All your characters are sitting there adding 4 net tokens across your rituals, and that seems pretty big for interacting with the army mechanic.
Yep. And the way when you and I are talking about this, it's almost like proliferation in Magic, where it's like, if your mechanic is tokens, this is like that. If you have a way to accelerate that, it's just like pure juice. It's like, you do what you want, but quicker. Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like the right choice.
Exactly. That, and they have access, I'm pretty sure, to like every unit on the roster almost. All the like to be released soon. So because it shows Mahabharati Sorcerer Saints, that is suggesting to me that some of the other like preview unreleased units aren't on that list. So like the Lightning Elemental, and there's some infantry unit that they show at the end of the PDF. But like, okay, so you've got a character that has a really good supremacy ability, can take 5 units in his warband, and has a really good profile too. I mean, look at that profile: 5 attacks, 5 wounds, 2 evasion, 3 clash. There's a mastery, I think it's a mastery, to give you +1 clash, attacks, and wounds. So like,
that makes him combat.
Yeah, he's everything.
I was focusing on the fact that wizards. So I come from Nords and Spires mainly, but like Wizard 7 seems high, because I'm usually with like casting things of 5.
That's about average right now, I think. With the last update, they kind of rolled with Arcane Retinue
Oh, they
into
just
the
rolled this in. So
profiles.
this just
So a
shows
lot of
that.
people,
Okay, this is
yeah,
just one of those things where in the old world, Brandon would buy his spires and buy 3 upgrades to get functionally
yes,
this. Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
yep.
I wanted to call it the Donner Archers.
Donner Veta, I think. Donner Veta, I
Donner
think.
Veta Archers. I like range units. I play a lot of bow chosen, but these guys seem interesting because for 140 points, they got decent move. They're medium, so they're scoring. In general, I like scoring range units with long range because they let you play the objective games. So being able to sit back, shoot 20 inches away, which is especially since the big range reductions, 20 is actually on the very high end, and with arcing fire that you isn't held behind some sort of that isn't behind an upgrade or something else. They just have that as part of their profile. Seems good, especially attached with Barrage 5. So while they don't have AP or these other things that obviously are really good, they still feel like very solid objective holders for the back half of the table. And they also come with the leader and the standard bearer free. I know standard bearer is not really super interesting on an archer unit, but the fact they get it for free is nice because on the first turn they can move 13 inches onto the table instead of just 12. I know it sounds like not much, but the thing is if you need to, I would be running these guys as objective sitters, and giving them double move to get a little bit extra range might be enough to get you to objective you wouldn't normally get. And for the 40 extra points for a stand, they seem to do what they want. I think their only downside is their defense 2, resolve 3, which are pretty good, 4 wounds, good solid defensive stats, no evasion, so that if you hit something that can ignore or get through your 2 defense, you're just taking hits. And volley 2 isn't the greatest, but once again, 20-inch range, man, that's fine.
So I have almost an opposite opinion as you. So I acknowledge that Barrage 5 and 20-inch range is good. Arcing Fire is a good add.
Yep.
They have completely normal defensive stats for medium. The problem is, for 140 points, I look at Mercenary Crossbowmen for 105 points, and they have armor piercing and 18-inch range.
The one thing I will say is I was like, if he brings up the Mercenary Crossbowmen, which I think are the most undercosted unit and just the entire world has passed on them, I don't have a good answer because you're right. I think they're undercosted. And I will say just in general, I think most people have passed on X-Bowmen. And the reason I bring this up is at the last event we played at Captain Con's, a world event, one of the other players was like, oh, I brought 2 crossbowmen and like, I think I probably should have just bought longbowmen. And then at the end of the day, he was like, I'm really glad I bought crossbowmen. They really do damage. Yeah, the 18-inch range with AP1 is clutch. I think everyone has slept on them. But acknowledging they are A tier, I still Mercenary Crossbowmen medium.
No, they're light.
That's, I think, the only downside that I like these guys for is these guys can score. So like I said, I think it depends what you want to use them for. Crossbowmen you want to use to remove big things, especially monsters, which AP1 really helps with, right? Helps bring it to a normal value. These guys, I feel, are, when I look at everything on the list, these are the guys I'm going to put to sit on my back objectives. That's going to be their goal, and they can still put things in. Because when I play like Spires, because I don't win Marksman Crossbowmen because I'm terrible at the game, or especially with the change where medium characters attached to light units don't score, like my Nords are the normal thing I do with Nords, which is put a medium character in a light unit to stand on an objective. That's gone now, and I need to kind of look at new things to objective hold. These objective hold for me. So that's what I think is, I agree, not the most alpha unit to kill. I think it's a very good objective, and as we know from my experience at Captain Con, score differential is huge. So getting a lot of inconsistent scoring is huge, especially since if you'll 1, 2, and then 3 is where it starts getting bananas. Having 2 of these on the back seems good.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about the Rajar now. Rajar in every way are just men-at-arms, except they also get hardened 1. I'm pretty sure they also cost the same amount as men-at-arms, which is, I guess, interesting. I know you're not supposed to compare costs between factions because there's a variety of things going in, like, and men-at-arms have access to veterans and stuff, but, like, it's the same stat line, and they also get hardened, and I don't know, presumably rituals and What does 100 Kingdoms even get? Veterans, I guess, is their army
Veterans,
rule.
yeah, but that costs
then
points.
that costs points. So
Yeah.
okay, so I was gonna say army rules play into it, but it's hard. I also I'm not sure if these guys are exactly super great either. After saying all of that, I'm not sure if they're super amazing just because, it's ultimately defense 3 hardened 1 is like it's going to be tankier than you expect, but with only 4 wounds, it's not like that tanky. So, just thought I'd point them out.
Yeah, I think they're, like you said, they're interesting. So one thing that I think is going to happen a lot is, I know when you called it out, comparing across factions is hard because there's other things that impact this. The thing that I'm seeing running through this is there's a lot of direct comparison in other factions that
Yeah.
these guys feel either like cheaper than or just straight up better. And I think this is a good call out. Rajar just feel like it's militia except also hard one. Okay, cool. Now when the mercenary crossbowmen shoot me, I'm rolling on threes.
Ignoring them, yeah.
Yeah, just
But the Donnerveta archers, no downsides to shooting at the Rajar. There we go.
Exactly.
They're made for fighting each other,
Internally
not
balanced.
100 Kingdoms. But yeah, all right. What's your next unit?
So Steeljin, the Steelheart Jins are the ones I was looking at because, well, first off, there's a few items here that have Bloodlust, and I, from my Nord days, love Bloodlust.
All the elementals have bloodlust, actually. I think. I'm pretty sure all of them do.
I think the range ones don't. So, like, if we go up and look at
the
War
range
Jins,
ones don't? Okay.
they do
All right,
not.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
So, which is funny because there are items that let you, as a draw event, remove Bloodlust, which just feels like, okay.
And give them unstoppable.
Yeah, it feels like, yeah. Cool, I can re-roll. So the Steelheart Jins I like because, so first off, I like Bloodlust because it allows you to do cool things, which is you can come in from the back and sides and charge on the first turn. One thing I have whenever I play events and I try to do weird stuff with coming in from the edge, every time I look at that, I'm just like, I can't charge, which is like the utility of getting closer to the enemy. So these guys have that. They have impact hits, which is nice, which allows you to do the charge attack later in the game. You can't obviously do that off the board. 7 move is really good for brutes, and I know part of that is I play brutes that are a little slower, so spires, ogres.
No, I mean that's clearly like cavalry. I mean, I have
Yeah.
cavalry that are move 6, so
Correct,
move
yeah.
7 for brute.
It seems really good because they're going to be able to get there, especially since they carry forward the impact. The defense is not like stellar, resolve 3, defense 3, evasion 1, but it has the important thing. There's at least an evasion 1, so you always have that essential invulnerable save, which is good. And they're 5 wounds to stand, which is nice.
5 wounds.
Because and I know that's the meme with Wadroon, but like the difference between doing 4 and 5 and sticking around another turn, I find is huge. So at 190. I haven't really sat down and like grokked out 190 points. It does seem high, but like these guys just seem better than most brutes I run, so I feels like that's good. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Cleave 2. Cleave 1 is like something that is very widespread. You can usually get in different places. Cleave 2 is, I think, when you really want to start looking at things, and these guys really seem like good carriers of Cleave 2. And then they have the special Aetheric Guidance, which if the enemy regiment is in contact with this regiment and they become the target of spell from the Court of Air, so they combo up with your spells. Friendly counts as having rolled 1 additional success. So this just helps you cast those spells if you're going down that path. The Aethermatic Release, upon regiment being destroyed, target friendly character stand that is currently accumulating ritual tokens towards performing a air ritual, counts as if they've accumulated as many as they need. So if you can play them riskier and they die, you can maybe juice them out and still pull through a ritual quicker, which seems like a nice way. As we said, we haven't played with rituals, so this might seem like a wombo combo where it's like push forward, die, get a thing, put this in. Seems good, but it's something in practice you'll never hit. We'll see, but this has good building blocks that I like around brute.
Yeah, my knee-jerk reaction is that the etheric release, which all of the brute elementals at least have etheric release, which automatically makes a Court of Air ritual or Court of Fire, respectively, depending on what kind of elemental. It complete rituals. So like if you can foresee things and there's a spell that lets you rearrange the command stack, or maybe it's a ritual, but use that and you can kind of rig things a little bit to put elementals in positions where they're likely to die, to let you complete a ritual, to I'm going to talk about it now since we're talking about elementals. Triple activate. Elemental special rule, which the 4 types of Jinn and 3 of the 4 monsters in this faction have, and 1 of the infantry units, they have the elemental rule. If you do a ritual, you basically, if the stack is ritual and then elemental, so you resolve a ritual and then activate an elemental, that elemental gets 3 actions. So this Steelheart Jinn unit, right? Move 7 into someone's flank, and then charge,
Impact
and
hits.
then get impact hits, and then cleave. Clash with cleave 2.
Yep.
Pretty good. And then, hey, you've conveniently also exposed your own flank for the enemy to charge into them, do a bunch of damage, maybe supercharge your ritual. Seems cool. Seems cool.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I have a hard time with is you get to a point in the game where you have units that are essentially dead that you don't know what to do with, and it's like, so what you try to do is over-index on putting them at the top of the stack, be like, I want one more attack. This feels nice because you're like, I'm going to start with a character, I'm going to start the ritual, I know that he's just going to kill him, and then boom, there's value, and I don't have to waste stack priority getting, 4 attacks on my guy who's 1 stand left, so that's kind of cool. The one thing I forgot is, what is Born of Air? Do you know what that is off the top of your
Born
head?
of Air is when an air spell targets that regiment, they heal 2.
Oh, heal. Oh, that's, if you go down there, that's, having healing on brutes is nice. 2 won't bring you back a stand if it's hurt, but, like, that's fine.
No, it's only good for, like, topping off. Goals. The unit I'm probably most excited about, I think. They are an infantry regiment. They are light. They are elemental, so they can triple activate, like we just talked about. And they have Unstoppable, Bloodlust, and Vanguard built into their 7 attack profile. And also 6 move. And these guys are 110 points. Now, their downside, what's their downside, you ask? Yeah, they only have 1 clash. But we'll talk a little later about that. They can charge off the board edge because of Bloodlust.
which we like.
Vanguard makes that easier because they can march on and then charge and clash. So, they're a nice little combo in and of themselves. Here's the problem, the biggest problem. They are the only light that Sorcerer Kings have access to. They're the only light regiment. So they are the ones who are going to be setting the reinforcement lines. They're not going to be making super good use of the reinforcement lines.
But you would have to either run multiple of them or hold them back the first turn, which has other consequences, right?
I can see with how cheap they are, I can see having 4 units of them as like the core of a list and among 2 warbands, because you have 5 warband slots. So you take 2 goals, 1 human unit, mortal unit to put your character in, and then you take 2 of the bigger elementals or the monsters or whatever, and like now you've got 4 units of goals. Some number of them will run up, Vanguard up the first turn, set your reinforcement line. Then on the next turn, the other goals come in and they charge anyone who has gotten closer. Problem with being lights is, since they're only infantry, even with Vanguard, they can only get so far up the board, set the reinforcement line so far forward. And it also depends on your enemies, like, moving into range of that. So, like, the Bloodlust Vanguard trick is, like, cool. But the Clash one also hurts. But I really like these guys, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't take 4 units of them in a list. That's my hot take.
No, I didn't. I glanced off Elemental. The fact that you could triple advance these guys every so often if you want to set it up.
That's a good point too.
That's what I didn't grok when I first looked at these guys. Because like you said, Clash 1. 3 wounds to stand, which is lower than normal.
Yeah, that's
2 resolve, 2 defense, 1 evasion. You're going to probably be taking E1 most of the time because a lot of stuff has cleave 1. I don't know if large groups is usually not, like, you don't want to take 9 stands often of things, so you're probably never going to juice up the resolve. But I didn't realize that if you played the cards right, you could sequence an extra activation. So there is a world where you kind of have a bunch of these, hold it off, activate the thing, Elemental, get the extra thing, Vanguard in, just wacky shit. So yeah.
I don't know if you can get a ritual off like turn 2, which is when these guys are most likely coming in from the edge. But like the potential of a 4-action turn, Vanguard, March, charge clash. Pretty funny. Pretty funny.
Yeah, even if it's for the meme, I like this. I'm changing my stance. I like these. The elemental bounced off me. I thought these were units that you just threw across a thing. The missions that when you lose stands, you score. I thought this was just like a unit that like you'd run across, your opponent would kill, and they would get 2 points, and you'd be like shit.
That would that's the hard part.
I took this more like a Strix, which is like I hope it slows things down enough where it's worth it. But there's some more tricks here with elemental.
Do you have any other units you want to talk about?
I want to get to monsters because I like monsters.
Okay, then let's talk about monsters.
I think the one thing that Conquest does really good in general is monsters. I think the showcase units draw people in. Every time I've played with them, you play with them, people come from out of the room to the convention and say, what's that Siege Beast? What's that Apex Predator? What's that Jotnar? Like, people like the big things. So I'm excited that they have these coming out with it. So I'll go with the Rakasha Back Asura first. So 260 points. Aura of Death 5, which is nice. People start next to it. They take auto hits. The Born Fire, Cleave 1, Elemental. We talked about Elemental. Impact 5, Terrifying 1. Good set of abilities. 7 move, good. Cleave 3, nice. 15 attacks is what I think kind of sets this nicely. I don't have any giant monsters like you do, which is you now have the Tauntaur. I know it's been toned down since. But like... that seems just like buck wild to me. 15 attacks, like...
Isn't that pretty comparable to an Ice Jotnar? Doesn't he get like 14 or something? Apex Predator gets 11.
You're right. I'm getting Siege Brains.
Yeah, you're getting Siege Breaker
where I'm looking at 8 and I'm like, oh my god, I go up to 10, I'm best. But yeah, because this is double. But 15 seems really good. 16 wounds seems good. It is, like you said, now comparable to the new Jotnars that have been boosted by 2 wounds. 3 resolve, 3 defense are fine, and 1 evasion. So
kind of bad.
Yeah, you're right. Because most big things except
it's heavy. It's heavy. It's got 16 wounds. So I mean,
yeah,
that's a little above like 3 5-stand infantry. At 260 points, that's very fragile.
Correct. Yeah. So I think the things that make it interesting is the arrogance, which adds a 3-inch charge when pouring charge against the enemy regiment with a character stand. I think getting charges with things with impact hits and extending something that has 7-inch move seems good. So the fact that if you're going to try to character assassinate with this, the fact that you can just count on flat 10. And then
minimum 11. Minimum 11, maximum
right.
16. Yeah. Pretty long charge.
Which seems good for consistency. And then the last word, which is when this regiment is destroyed, target enemy regiment within 8 of this character stand with the wizard special rule, they suffer 8 automatic hits. So like this feels like an interesting way. One thing I hate is Dwegum characters on the big monsters, and I feel like you can kind of huck this at. I don't know if that would count as that, but if he died, then he could cause the 8 automatically hits because they have a wizard characteristic. And that seems kind of cool. So like. This is a monster that you don't that seems like cut of a different cloth from other things. It does have a lot of cool rules which seem good. I like arrogance for the consistency and charge, and I think last word is getting value on death seems good if you can get a good matchup.
I mean, you forgot the most important part. If this thing kills the enemy warlord, 1 extra victory point, folks.
Oh yeah, you and I were talking about
1 extra victory point. Now, I'm going to say a major downside to this guy.
Yes.
He does not get a free duel. He has to duel as an action. So you charge...
Yeah.
Hellbringer Drake, for example, you can choose to clash the Drake,
which is what you're gonna probably,
or you can attempt to duel the rider, and if they say no, you get flurry. But you just used 2 actions. You charged and then you dueled. Yeah. So unless you're doing the triple activation, you're going to get that benefit of that flurry.
That's true.
Usually,
and that is still quite a wombo combo to set up for flurry.
I mean, flurry on 15
cleave is really attacks. Good.
15 on cleave, they would be at Clash 4.
Yeah.
But, like, it's pretty good. You could potentially get up to, like, Clash 4 rerolling 6s with this guy, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's a spell that gives everyone that charges a unit shock.
Oh, okay.
So you can give this guy shock, so he's Clash 4 on impact, and then Inspire, so he's Clash 4 rerolling 6s. And then at that point, you really don't need flurry unless you're really scared of 5s.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
But, so, anyways, we like it. Let's move on to the Ravenar. I think you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, the Ravenar is...
The same thing.
Yeah, same things.
No, it's got cleave 2 and 11 attacks instead of 15
Correct.
cleave 1 attacks.
Yeah, cleave 2 is great.
Yeah.
And the difference, yeah, +3 distance when making charging a monster regiment. So this is nice if you're going after other people with monsters. You got, once again, like the consistency with that. And last word is when he dies, he punishes monsters. Seems nice that you have these two things that are really good at targeting and killing their intended target. If your opponent has it, I think you'll get points back. This one, I think cleave 2 is just general's better. But sorry, I think you'll feel better with it. But yeah.
Yep. I am nothing to add on that specifically, but I just want to go into the Trin Vuz since it's on screen already. I want to talk about the Trin Vuz because what the heck is this thing? It's medium, it's got evade 2, it's got 16 wounds, it's only got 10 attacks, okay, volley 3, clash 3, it's got dead shots, it's got 12 barrage, 16-inch range, okay, no special rules on that.
Yeah.
It can free volley, and also, okay, when it's within range of an objective zone, its volley goes against every enemy regiment within range of the same objective zone. So that's 12 attacks.
Against just whatever.
If you shove this thing across the board and there's like multiple enemy regiments, just and then if it dies in the range of a objective zone, enemy units can't be inspired from it. This is crazy. I just noticed it's loose formation.
I was just gonna say that. I was like, that's the thing that I saw.
Oh my
that is
God.
just insane because it's going to win in like range shootouts against a lot of things.
Because volley 3, barrage 12, dead shot. They changed dead shots, or maybe it's a new rule. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I can't remember if it's always counts as take aim.
Yep. And so the thing is like what's also nice about it is its stat line is so it's 220 points.
Yeah, it's always taking aim, so it's always shooting at volley 4.
Yep.
Always shooting at volley 4.
So yeah, so that's what I like this guy for that because he's good at shooting things. I think for a ranged monster, like when you compare this to something like a Sea Jotnar, I think this just is better. Yeah. And I think this is less points too.
It's 220 versus a Sea Jotnar's 240.
Yeah.
Final unit, or do you have another unit? Because I only have the Mahut to talk about
Let's
now.
go through the
I think
Mahut
that's actually, we've talked about pretty much everything, actually.
The one thing, yes, let's do that and then say what we like about the new release cycle.
Yep, so Mahut is a Tantor. That's honestly, it's like old Tantor is really all I have to say about it, because in almost every way. I mean, the fact that it's 20 wounds, it's very close to like new Tantors wound-wise.
Yep.
It gets free volley, just like old Tantor used to. It's got less impact and trample, but it still has, you know, some impact and trample. And then the free volley action just adds more damage. It's got 10 attacks instead of 16 relentless blows. I don't know. This thing just feels very, oh God, hardened 1. It feels like they were like, hey, let's give someone else the Tantor.
That's what it feels like. The one thing that is kind of takeaways, it feels like there is some faction identity issues with this when we get into the upgrades and Wombo comes and stuff. But like this and then the ritual mechanic seems very mechanically... the ritual mechanic seems like Wadroon. This feels like a Tantor, an old Tantor. And it feels like they try to throw a few keywords on there to kind of make it look a little different, like Hardened 1 and Oblivious, but like...
I think Tantor has Oblivious,
Oh, they do?
too.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So, like, very comparable in a lot of ways, except for Hardened 1.
Yeah, which is
And,
cool.
like, so the stats are a little less. A little less. Are they 70 or 90 points less? I don't exactly think so.
I don't think so. I think this is... Yeah, I think if I had the ability to run either or, I would save the 90 points, get 2 of these, and use that 180 points to get something else cool.
Yeah.
Get the loose formation monster.
I have no more units, so...
one thing that we wanted to talk about liked about this release is, since we've been playing since the beginning, a lot of the PDFs had unreleased units, and it kind of led to a feel-bad situation.
Yeah.
One is, they would announce a model, people would look at the rules and be like, I'm going to go buy 13 of them, and then
I'm going to 3D print 1 million Golter Beast packs 2 days later. No more Golter Beast packs.
Yep.
Like,
exactly. Okay. So, and even people were over evaluating the value of these things. And I know they said that they were definitely play tested. It didn't feel like they were play tested the same level as other items. So I like this because it paints a picture to where they want to go, but it doesn't paint them into a corner or make a promise to players that they can't keep. So
it's going to be very difficult for them to mess up medium cavalry magic using regiment. Like, you can't really, like, there's if you can deviate too far. I mean, they did make a Dwegum infantry unit. Eventually, it's now a monster. So I guess.
Hey, we'll see.
I guess you can deviate for like that far, but like
the fact that they calls preview, though, I think it even gives them the protection, because like when you see a Golter Beast,
and
it
even
same
says
thing,
the spells are subject to change, but offer an understanding of some of the regiment's powers. Okay, yeah, cool. I'm not gonna sit here and like try to play Maharaja Sorcerer Saints. I'm not gonna the Wadroon chat. There's some guys who like to be like, oh, Chosen of War are not going to make it in the game with their current stats. Okay, well then why? What's the point? Why preview the Chosen of War? When I first started getting into Conquest, I like had plans to convert Chosen of War. Like I drew out. I was like, I'm going to use the Braves shields. I'm going to use like weapons from like Steel Legion or something. Like so they're wielding like human swords and whatnot. And then I remember showing up to an event with a converted mounted predator, and the TO was like, "Oh, unreleased regiments aren't allowed, or unreleased units aren't allowed." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then all of my plans for converting anything just immediate. I was gonna do it with veterans too. I was gonna give them 100 Kingdoms shields and swords to represent their from the. I was gonna use the blooded kit as a base, and literally, as soon as I showed up with a converted predator and was told that that was not allowed, I was like, all right, no, this is not a game where conversions are like, this is not a game where I want to look at any units that aren't official, and therefore I'm not going to convert them unless I have like a cool idea to modify that existing unit. Anyways, we're diverting from Sorcerer Kings. Let's talk about some combos and some items.
So I'm going to go with the Dancing Scimitar, but there are a few different items.
That's the best item in the entire game, just from coolness factor.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm not sure mechanically it's sound, but coolness factor.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, exactly.
100.
So what I kind of was looking at is I think that Trample added a cool mechanic to the game, which is auto hitting things at the end of the combat. And it feels like there's a few items here. The Dancing Scimitar is the coolest, maybe not mechanically best, but is the coolest example of that they have, which is as a draw event. If target an enemy within 12 inches, target regiment or objective marker with 12,
or objective marker
suffers 3 automatic hits with armor pierce 2 special rule. They do not cause results check. So it's nice because there's no whiffing on hits. It's just like that guy over there, take a bunch of hits, and I think that's cool. Like I said, there's a few other items that also do this. The Prija Kanjar also does auto hits, not as good, but I think it's a cool play space to be, and I think it adds a little bit of consistency so you're not feeling bad by picking an upgrade that's not really like that you get diced out of.
Yep.
So I like that. It's mechanically cool too. Or sorry, thematically cool. Do you have an item?
I'm just going to talk about Dancing Scimitar a little more. The fact that you can hit an objective marker from up to 12 inches away, like most other regiments, you need to be within your effective range, which with a usual range of like between 14 and 18 inches, that's way less than 12. Like the comparable like volley attack is a 24-inch range unit, which I think only longbows hit.
Yep.
Which gives you a massive amount of range to do this, and then also like it's guaranteed to pull a wound off, and then like you come in turn 2. I guess since he can only join mediums, he comes in turn 2, and then he can use this draw event turn 3. And maybe on turn 1 and 2, or turn 2, like you did some damage with goals or something. Or when you're, depending on where the marker is, your bloodlusted guys might be able to charge turn 2 as soon as they come on from mediums. But anyways, they have impacts. You can take down some objective markers pretty fast.
I think if you put this, so if we look at the framework of the archers, you put a character on that because it's one of the units. They have 20-inch range, so that means they can do damage to markers up to 10-inch. If they have an attached character with 12 inches of that, you actually have something that can, on turn 3 or whatever you get in range, you can reliably do 2 damage to it at range, which is a very efficient unit just to kill markers.
Yeah.
And in missions, those often prevent you from scoring because they hold objectives. So killing them is really key to getting the points. Or they give you a large swing in points. So being able to assassinate a few markers at range is good. So I think that's where this will. I think if you're using this to do nominal damage to characters, it's not as interesting.
Yeah. I think the true best item in this book is Jadu Kavach, which is right there on the screen already. You don't have to move. Yeah. When you cast a spell, every elemental of that spell type, fire or air, rerolls 6s until the end of the round. You activate your sorcerer, you cast, I don't know, any fire spell. I turn Bloodlust to Unstoppable, or I can't remember any other fire spells off the top of my head except for the one that like causes damage, but there's a ton of them. I think you can give enemies Bloodlust with a fire spell. Anyways, you do that, and now all of your goals are Clash 1, re-rolling 6s, which is a huge like increase in I don't think it doubles, but it's a significant considering they're only Clash 1 to begin with.
Correct. Yeah.
Pretty good. Actually, now that I think about it, like they inspire. I think it's an 8% increase, which is not, or like 8% more likely to score a hit, which isn't.
It isn't huge, but I think the points that you're saying is all friendly regiments with this ability get to reroll.
Oh yeah, so I mean this also applies to your fire elementals, the Djinns,
exactly,
and Ifrits.
And it's not bound by range.
Aura, yeah.
You can just, if you go do this thing, the guys on the other side, because I find that one problem with a lot of
you're standing back on an objective and
correct, yeah. Like, let's say you're an archer, yeah, because a lot of times I find these cool buffs are so bound by areas that if you want to properly play the objectives, you just have to be like, yep, I'm not going to get this. There's no choice here.
Yeah.
If you do this, everyone just gets that, which seems good.
Yep. Do you have another item that you want to point out?
I was going to talk about the Paravartin, which is once per round when a ritual command card is activated, you may opt to remove the card from play and perform a free out-of-sequence spell casting with a friendly character stand. I think that getting out of doing cool things with rituals, I think, is good because that is their faction identity. Second thing is getting the ability to do have a little bit more control of who's doing spells feels very good because you can be like, I need this guy to cast a spell to do damage, and then I'll heal this guy because they're all flame affinity, so they're going to heal too. Like that feels like a nice set of options for you. And they also have good spells. I know we didn't really like super index or drill down on those, but they like have spells that actually do things in the game. Which is cool because for a long time there wasn't a lot of great spells in the game, and I think with some of the buffs and up things, there's choices, and I think being able to exchange to make the choice of saying ritual out, I'm going to do an out of sequence cast. It's cool. I think it's nice. It's a good upgrade. It's a good choice.
Yep. And then two things that I want to point out with this one. This can allow you to like effectively double activate a wizard.
Yep.
So you act early in the round you do some kind of like buff, or maybe you just do like a busy work thing to get Jadu Kavach going.
Yep.
And then your opponents like get closer to you, and now, I do the ritual, and look, now I'm casting the fireball spell at you, and now I'm doing damage to you because you just moved closer, and I did basically a stall tactic. Wow. The second thing is it still counts as the ritual being activated, so it still triggers elemental.
Yes. Okay.
It still triggers elemental, so you can do something like, I have a ritual, I'm not too interested in the effect, I'm going to instead like use a buff spell on the elemental, and now the elemental is going to march charge, or march charge clash, or whatever. My next item is Eye of the Blazing Tempest, which is on screen already. It's for 30 points. The fact that every time you do the elemental rights action to add 2 tokens, every friendly elemental unit within 8 inches heals 3 wounds, which feels
brings back a stand of ghouls.
Brings back a stand of ghouls to full, from 0 to full. It can bring back a stand of the Ifrit.
Because it's enough. It's over their 5.
It heals your Rakshasa. So if you have your Maharaja in the middle of the group every you activate him at the beginning of the round, end of the round, whatever. You can get 12. You can get like easily like 9 to 12 wounds back out of it. Like, okay, 30 points. Okay, if you're already taking 4 regiments of goals.
I was gonna say, if you go that, just hit them all. Just make big long lines, so they stay within 8. And be like, bring back a stand, bring back a stand. I think
crazy.
I think the only thing I don't like about this, and it's going to be the softest dislike, is this makes it the character action obvious. You're just going to do that every time because the action economy.
It's a free action.
Yeah.
You're going to do it every time anyways. There's never a situation where you're not doing it.
Oh, this isn't the active one. This isn't where you have to. This is the.
There is no. You never have to spend an actual action to add tokens.
Okay.
It's always a free action to add tokens, so you don't have to choose between spellcasting and tokens. You get to spellcast and then also heal 8 people and add 2 tokens to your ritual pool, which could trigger a ritual to let you out of sequence cast. You can't Parter of Vartan and Jadu Kavach at the same time. That's the only problem. You have to like choose on one character. You have to make a choice between Jadu Kavach and Eye of the Blazing Tempest.
I think the character you can take 2 of these, so you could run both.
You can never take 2 items of the same category.
Oh, these are the same. Yeah, they are. They scroll down.
So you need 2 different characters, and like, yes, you are going to bring 2 different characters, but are you going to have the 2 characters like acting close enough? Well, I mean, the Jadu Kavach is going to hang out in the back. Correct, Eye of the Blazing Tempest is probably going to be the Maharaja, and is going to be in the middle of everything.
Yeah, it has to be there.
All right, so I just want to talk about one combo that I found I got really excited about. I don't know if it's actually good. It probably isn't, and I'll talk about why. But there's a ritual called Conflagration. Just like Part of Vartan, it allows you to do an out-of-sequence spellcasting action. Although this one, when you actually use the Conflagration ritual, it counts as scoring an automatic 4 successes. So you do Conflagration, you go through the cycle, it activates. You have one of your characters cast Burn to Cinders. Burn to Cinders inflicts 1 hit per success. If that enemy regiment is engaged with a flame elemental, such as, let's say, an Efreet sword dancer, it gets an extra 3 additional hits. So now you're looking at 7. Oh, Efreet sword dancers have a special rule where if they're engaged with someone, you get an extra additional hit when you do like fire spells at people they're engaged with. So you just got 8 automatic hits in an out of sequence action. And so there's no armor piercing or anything. And it does need line of sight. But I don't know, 8 automatic hits. Against out of sequence, going against D3 or defense 3, you're looking at 4 damage, which could kill a stand of like men at arms.
Correct. Yeah, and even that's enough dice. Like, I'll put this a different way, which is the trample on Tauntor at 10 auto hits really impacted the game.
Yeah.
This is also out of sequence because it's a free thing that you can do once you pull the card. You can get 8 with a little bit of setup. So that feels just as interesting. And also, you don't have to be in close combat with something. You can kind of be like, you go over there, you take some hits.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Yeah.
It does require setup, but setup that does stuff with spells seems cool.
Yeah. So that was our review of the Sorcerer Kings rules. Now, we only went through things that we particularly were interested in. We didn't go bite by bite down through all the spells because there's a ton of them. All the rituals, there's a ton of them. We did hit every single unit except for the characters that we find boring. All the characters are the same. Here's the hottest of hot take section, our closing thoughts. Do you have anything else that you'd want to say? Do you want to editorialize? We've been kind of trying to stick to the hard facts here and just pointing things out that could work. Do you have anything like vibes-based?
Yeah, entirely vibes.
Commentary?
So I'm going to give vibes-based. I love the models. I love the look. I think that this is an underrepresented space in miniature wargaming, and I'm very excited that it exists, and the models look great. Mechanically, the vibes is off, and I don't know if I would enjoy playing them. I don't think I could ever make hay with Wadroon. These seem like that with weird character draw events that I don't love. And I think I would find this annoying to play, but I think if you got the person, if you like managing all these little things, I think it's cool. It's just, it seems like a lot for me.
So here's what you do. If you want to play Sorcerer Kings and you are worried about this token tracking system, you buy an abacus and you use that. And you go back to the time when the lore had a typo and called these guys like mathematical mages or something who killed Haslia, right? And you go full into that. You become the math mage. You're doing abacus stuff to track your ritual tokens. You have like the cards stapled to your abacus as you move them back and forth. You're doing the math. You are killing God with math. And that's how you make this faction work without blowing your brains. Well,
the thump of the abacus would be so satisfying. Just be like, I cast a spell, thump. Then use a character, thump thump.
Yep, exactly. That will not take you out of the game at all. I know some people, the Goonhammer review of the book talked about this, where it like took him out of the immersion of the game. It didn't let him like focus on the table. But using abacus, you solve that problem.
I think I like that just viewing because, like, I want to tell you when I'm playing Wadroon and, like I said, this mechanic, they can tell me anything. They just pick up tokens and they're like, I have shock, rerolling, unstoppable, and bloodlust, and I'll be like, sure, yeah, okay, cool, sounds good. That's a thing that feels like it could exist. Yeah, and here, if you clickety clack a bunch of abacuses, tell me whatever rule, I'm giving it to you.
I might like. Speaking of Wadroon, I might like see if I can 3D print a mini abacus that's just like for the chant tokens instead of putting tokens on the cards.
That'd be great.
Just like flipping them back and forth, and then that might get me more in the habit of actually performing. But okay.
So do you have any end of vibe thoughts? I know I kind of gave.
Yeah, vibe-based closing thoughts. So the ritual mechanic does seem a little clunky, and I was not super impressed with a lot of the rituals looking through them. And I talked about we were talking about this earlier. We didn't really bring it up at any other point in the video, but the tension between character activations and like ritual activations and elementals is a little weird because like the characters have some pretty cool draw events that they can get access to, but character activations, besides adding the tokens, don't seem super great. Like, all the spells are kind of toned down a little bit because of the ability to, like, chain a character into a regiment. But, like, none of the regiments that the characters join are interesting unless you take the mastery to, like, become an elemental.
Yeah.
And I guess on a Mahut, they're Mahut, I don't know. They're probably more interesting. Oh, but then you can't chain into it. But yeah, like the idea of like activating a character for his draw event and then sitting there and being like, okay, now my Dahmer Veta archers roll 20 dice and do 3 points of damage because they have no armor piercing. Like, that doesn't seem that exciting. So I see like the overall strategy of this army being like front loading a bunch of like characters and their regiments to like kind of do busy work. And then they trigger the rituals, and then you add all the rituals to your stack and weave it between like some better elemental units that you do all at the end of the turn, which I mean is a pretty solid strategy anyways. I don't know why I'm complaining about it. It just because like, oh, my useful units have to act after all their useful units have activated, and I get to like pick my engagements better. Like, wow. Like, but still, it's weird. It's a weird design space that I don't fully grok myself, and I'm not sure if I ever see myself taking the draw events except for the meme of throwing scimitars at objectives.
Oh, 100%, yeah, which we love.
So yeah. That's our video. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope to bring you some more hard-hitting, hot-take rules review videos, maybe some battle reports, some stuff in the future. So like, subscribe, comment.
Let us know what you like. So comment both what you thought about this faction, what kind of content you want to see, if you want us to go more in depth in something, and tell me why the Sing Scimitar is actually the best item in the entire Conquest world, because I'm trying to find reasons to make it, because I want that to be the case.
You want to convert it? You want to convert multiple glowing scimitars? And
correct. I want to put, when I attack someone, I want to put a little model on the table and make my opponent look at it as I watch.
That plus the abacus, you're building a world for your opponent to battle in. And that's what we're in Conquest for.
It's true.
All right.
Bye everyone.